Homeschooling is an adventure, and like any good adventure, it's always evolving. Lately, there's been a lot of talk of how AI could be used in homeschooling. I hear it in local homeschool groups, on the news, and in those annals of the internet where I really dig into ed tech stuff. And you guys, I have nerded out on this. I have researched the crap out of this subject, and I'm so excited to share with you some of the best tools that I've found that we can use as homeschool families, as well as some of the ways that we need to be wary. So don't hide under a rock on this. Let's go ahead and attack this head on. Now, before we get too into the weeds, I just want you to kind of imagine AI, not as some scary idea while we're talking about this. I want you to imagine it as your personal assistant. Now, personal assistants are not just for the rich and fancy, they are for you. Now, we can all have a personal assistant, and this is one of the best ways that I've found to use AI as a homeschooling mom of 4. Now, we've got a lot to get through today, so if you've got something in particular you're looking for, go ahead and check out the chapters. Otherwise, stick with me. I'm going to show you how this acts like a personal assistant throughout these different areas and how we can go ahead and incorporate it today in your homeschool. Before we get too far, go ahead and check that you are subscribed and that you've liked this video. That helps so much to make sure that this content gets to other homeschooling families and doesn't cost you a thing. Thanks. First up, let's talk curriculum. AI tools like ChatGPT and Notion AI are incredible when you need ideas for lesson plans or unit studies. The magic, the secret sauce is in the prompt, the thing that you type in, right? What you're asking it for. This can be frustrating or it can be really helpful in just a few seconds. So look what I did here. I went ahead and asked ChatGPT to create a table for me for my 2nd grader. I asked it to align it with Virginia's SOLs, their standards of learning. I have looked at the Virginia standards of learning. They're free PDFs online. All the states have some sort of learning standards, whether it's Common Core or TEKS, TEKS in Texas, or SOLs in Virginia. And you can go ahead on your grade level that you're looking for, the subject that you're looking for, take a look at those. And that just acts like a plan. Now, you could say, hey, take the whole 2nd grade and plan it out week by week. Cha-ching! That is a great way to save on curriculum and gives you a good plan that you can then gather the materials and resources that you'll need. But I did this. I went ahead and I asked it to create a 2nd grade science unit on force, matter, and energy. And I've got weekly topics, experiments, and even book recommendations, okay? So you'll notice, again, I asked it to align with the standards for the Virginia Standards of Learning. If you're unsure what your child should be learning at certain stages, be sure that you use those standards. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Educators have been looking at these things and have looked at the scope and the sequence, just fancy words for like the trajectory of where they should be going in their learning at this age. So if you're not sure what they should be learning, go ahead and check those standards, ask ChatGPT or another AI personal assistant to create that for you. Also, for those of you who loved our deep dive on how to keep homeschool costs low, go ahead and check that card up there. This is something that you're going to love because, again, you can take this plan and then either head to your library or your used bookstore or look online and find those resources at a fraction of the cost than buying a huge all-in-one curriculum out of the box. All right, go ahead, use this tool because, again, it's going to save you so much time and money. Quick reminder, always cross-check your AI suggestions with credible sources. If something sounds off, if you're not quite sure, oh, that doesn't sound right, just double check. Make sure everything is A-okay and correct. A second way that we're using AI is to find sources and ideate. Now, ideate is just a fancy way to say, come up with ideas or brainstorm. But to find sources is also a really helpful thing in this day and age. So here's one more way that I think of AI as a personal assistant, okay? You could spend a long time combing through sources, right? And especially for our kids, this is something that I think is one of those things that we need to embrace with AI. This is one of those things that they're going to have going forward, just like my generation, those 80s, 90s babies had the internet to start researching. Now we've got more options presented to us to narrow down those sources and make sure that we've got a good variety of sources that are credible. We're not just clicking that first Wikipedia link, right? We're trying to dig a little bit deeper and give them the chance to find good sources for their academic work, but also save time, right? That's really important. AI really shines when it comes to research, all right? I can ask it for resources on historical events, science experiments, or even writing prompts. So if you need, for example, an essay idea on a book that your child read. I did this recently for The Last Cuentista by Donna Barba Higuera. This is a book that I teach, but also my 7th grader was reading it for her book study. I asked ChatGPT to come up with a few different essay topics that my daughter could write about to show her understanding and her analysis of this wonderful book. Now, it gave some unique angles that I normally wouldn't have gravitated toward. And I'm really grateful for that because as a teacher, I'm prone to bias, like we all are, right? And so I usually tend toward character analysis and connecting to the reader's personal experience. But there are other and literary analysis topics that we really need to cover too. So I asked it to create some prompts. Then I asked it to create a rubric. A rubric is where we've got kind of a grade, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm not doing this for the grade, by the way. I'm just doing it to be able to evaluate her essay really well. And I'm going to ask ChatGPT to create a table with a rubric that gives descriptive, qualitative ideas of how this essay can show that it's kind of lacking or that it's killing it, right? And so I want to see kind of where her writing is at this moment, be able to show her, hey, I think we're missing sources, or I think we're missing some grammar points, grammar accuracy here. I think we're missing some connection, some explanation of your reasoning in this point, right? So I'm able to back up my analysis, my read of her writing with something I can then show her. Just has to do with feedback. Again, using Virginia SOLs, Texas TEKS, or Common Core, which you might see abbreviated as CCSS, to create these is a fantastic way to make sure that you're kind of tracking with what your child could be learning at this point in their learning journey. This was a new tool I found in my research, and I showed my 7th grader while I was doing some research for this video, and it's called perplexity.ai, and it is really cool. Kind of looks like ChatGPT, that kind of black screen in the background, but when you search, again, giving it some ideas, tell me about the main causes of World War II, for example, these sources are going to come up. It's got many sources. Then it's going to come up with a list of ideas and some bullet points. So she and I sat down together to look at that. And she goes, whoa, this is really helpful because it's boiling down the main points into a few different areas. Now, then we can go through those sources and see, okay, this looks a little bit biased. This looks really factual. I can see that it's from a good source, that sort of thing. So we've got all these conversations going. Again, Perplexity AI, super, super cool tool that I didn't know about before. It's linked below. Go use it. All right. Next up is quality control. Let's talk about some quality control here because even the best personal assistant needs some guardrails, needs some supervision. Let me walk you through how we're teaching our kids to analyze and critique AI's work. So I use AI generated pieces to teach my kids how to spot errors and biases. When they read something that is generated by AI, for example, an essay that's AI written, they're going to see often a lot of extra adjectives or something that just seems too wordy that a normal person wouldn't use. That's something that we want our kids to start to take a look at, right? It doesn't look natural. Again, you've probably seen bad examples of AI generated images as well, but this is just one, again, more way that we can teach our kids to listen to those spidey senses to say, something is not right here. I want to dive deeper into this and figure out, is this right or is this not right? Should I chuck it or should I sit here and try to work through what I can change, right? And so it's this meta-analysis that builds their critical thinking skills. These are the skills that really build them up to be like AI Jedis using this force in a really constructive way, rather than just bloop, 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 dropping some prompts in, seeing what comes up and blindly sending it off. Again, there are AI sensors out there. They have figured out ways to catch that. And so that's the lazy way to use AI. The smart way to use AI is to think critically, use good prompting, use AI to do about 20% of the work. Start out with that 20%, ideas, outlines, sources, different resources we could go get more information from, and then adding that 80%. So that 80% is going to come from our own creatively thinking, critically thinking minds. All right. That's going to be the way to really harness the power. Oh my gosh. This is the one. This is the one that I think is really going to take off in the next few years. Some of you may remember that I got to talk with Mackenzie Price. You've probably seen her on social media. All right. This is my conversation with her. She is the founder of 2-Hour Learning and Alpha School. She was on lots of news shows, a Today Show, Dr. Phil, all these big news outlets are like, whoa, what is this lady doing? Now, she and her school, her team have used AI to help kids learn faster. You probably remember this in your textbooks at school, in your workbooks, you knew some of the stuff already. Why do we need to spend more time on the stuff that we already know? Sometimes there's connections to be made, but a lot of times it's just not efficient. All right. And so using AI to figure out what we know already and fill the gaps that we're missing. That's what AI is going to do. There are so many cool tools that already exist. You guys, this is going to grow exponentially in the next few years, but this is what I'm really excited about. You can already hear it in my voice. My voice has gotten up like an octave. All right, here we go. Let's get into this. So one of them is a tool that's been around for a long time, but has evolved so well over the years is Khan Academy. So hopefully you've used Khan Academy before. Khan Academy is fantastic for personalizing lessons. So I'm showing you some of these things, right? They adapt to your child's strengths and weaknesses, ensuring that they get the support where they need it at their own pace. If they are zooming and they love what they're learning, let them go. It's like having like a digital tutor on demand, and that tutor can adapt to what your child needs, what they're interested in, and what they need help with, giving them that support when they need it. I'm going to link Khan Academy below. Another one is Duolingo. I'm a language teacher, so I'm personally always going to err on the side of a real live teacher, but I always love having a digital backup, right? Somebody who can practice with you at any time, day or night, 24/7. Fantastic. Use Duolingo. That's fine. They use AI as well to figure out where your gaps are. And I also want to encourage you to check out 2-Hour Learning and Alpha Schools below. There's a lot going on there. But if you haven't caught on to what they're working on, that is something that you definitely want to keep an eye on over the next few years. Okay, this one hits close to home. As a homeschooling mom of 4, a work from home mom, somebody's got a lot going on, like you. It's nice to have a personal assistant. Now, I don't have like an Alexa in my home. I keep a good calendar, right? I think I'm pretty organized, but when you have something that makes it that much easier to manage your busy schedule, it makes a difference, right? For me, one of those tools was Notion. That's where I lesson plan. That's where I keep all of my work documents, right? It's just one of those things that has been a game changer with me. So this is where AI has been kind of like a personal assistant who kind of clears my schedule, make sure that I have time to do what I need to do. So stick with me. I'm going to show you exactly how this is done. So as parents, we've got a lot to handle in terms of like the administrative side of homeschooling, and from creating our kids' schedules, right? If you've got multiple kids, you know, I need to work with so-and-so during this subject and this subject they can do on their own. You can also organize records. Tools like Notion, AI, and just Notion in itself, you don't even have to use the AI feature, are really huge when it comes to making this doable. Now, using their templates, their pre-made templates, fantastic. They save me hours of work every week. So you can simply ask AI to come up with a schedule for you. Tell it what it needs to know. What does it need to know? I've got a 5-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 9-year-old, an 11-year-old. They need individual time with me to do language arts. We also need to check in and make sure that they are doing fine on their history, that they are working on individually as well as their writing. Okay, so I'm gonna ask for a schedule. If you want like a very strict schedule, that's something that you could do. Personally, I don't do this because our mornings are all flexible and it's very choice-based. So if that's something that you do need though, go for it. If you feel like you need to figure out what your work day and what your school day could look like as they intersect, that's a huge thing too. Ask it for, you know, a different schedule, like a layout of what your day could look like. I need to work X amount of hours per day. I have this age child who's working on this curriculum or this grade level. What is a potential plan for the day? Whoa, that's pretty cool. And if you haven't tried this yet, put in a goal that you have. For example, I put in a business goal that I have for Curio. And I said, how can I make this happen in the next 6 months? Give me a plan. It gave me a daily plan and weekly goals to work toward. Whoa, that's pretty cool. So AI is really powerful if you know what to ask it for. And then take that with a grain of salt. Again, remember, all of this is subject to making sure that things are accurate and realistic and being flexible and just saying, hey, life happens. I'm going to go ahead and step back. But the fact that you have a personal assistant there to give you this plan, that's the kicker. That's going to be what is your secret sauce for using AI as your personal assistant in homeschool. Okay. As we mentioned before, AI is not perfect. I think we know this by now. So even the best assistants need checks. They need some guardrails, like I mentioned. So we're teaching our kids to do this from this point. We want to make sure that they go forward knowing that this is not a perfect tool that's telling them to do something and they must do it. No, no, no. And so as much as I love AI, it's not without its challenges. And we're teaching our kids to use it really responsibly, like understanding its limitations and avoiding plagiarism, safeguarding their privacy, that sort of thing. So we're always verifying sources, and we're talking about how AI might leave out key context or nuance, right? It's pulling sources from different parts of the internet. And if something is very, very commonly talked about in a certain way, it might not talk about it another way. So what are we missing from this picture? Always being willing to ask that question, what else do I need to know about this, is really important. It's also really important to monitor your kids' AI use as it springs up in new places. You guys, this is constantly changing, as you've seen. But let me tell you a quick story from our homeschool. So one of our kids loves using Canva to create presentations for history, right? She does a history unit, and at the end, she does a presentation for all of our kids. It's really fun. But she uses Canva to create this. And so we kind of sit down at different points throughout her process, and she has kind of a week to create this presentation, a little bit of work each day. And we sit down like on a Tuesday, and she's like, I'm done. I'm done with my whole presentation. I go, wow, how? She goes, well, look, here are my notes. Here's what I'm going to say. And I read it, and I'm like, that doesn't sound like you. It sounds a little off. Some of these facts are not right. I know you didn't learn this in your history, right? Where did this come from? And she goes, oh, well, Canva has this little star button. Ding, ding, AI. Now, Canva has a magic assistant kind of where it will take your image, look at it, figure out what it is, and then put some notes in the presenter notes about what it sees on the image. Now, this might work well if you're presenting like some corporate presentation on X, Y, or Z, and it's reading the text there, but it was reading her images, right? The clip art basically that she had gotten and pulled into her presentation. And it was not going to fly. So we had a quick chat and said, hey, that was really easy, wasn't it? But actually, unfortunately, this guy came out wrong for you. So there are blatant errors here, odd wording, things that just really don't fit what you typically say. Now, it's nice to have the work done for you, but we need to make sure that we're doing it correctly. So we had this conversation. Could you use AI to come up with some ideas? Absolutely. But if you're using it as your end all be all, I'm done, then we've got some work to do. So this is how we can kind of sit down together. The more we can show like our humble approach to AI as this continues to change so rapidly, the better. We want our kids to be open to learning and changing their opinions as needed, right? That mental agility is really important. So having these conversations as we go is super critical. And I really, really encourage you to show that flexibility, show that humility to your kids. So at the end of the day, AI is not a replacement. It's just here to make your homeschool more efficient. It's creating more space for you to bring what only you can bring, that creativity, that love, that connection that we bring as homeschool parents. It is the Robin to your Batman. It's helpful, but you're still the hero of your homeschool. So you guys, we have not completely replaced our homeschool with AI. AI is not taking over your homeschool either. It is simply a tool. And I hope that you come away from this time together with that impression. There are so many great ways to use AI, and I hope that you'll start to kind of dip your toes in them. Please don't run from this. Please don't hide from this. This is really going to behoove your kids in the future. And these skills, these critical thinking skills, are a huge part of that. So take this step. Let us know what you're using in the comments. If you're already using AI, if you've got some questions, you're skeptical, you've got some doubts, Let us know in the comments. I would love to hear what you would like to use AI for, and hopefully we can get you some tools, some ideas that would help. All right, you guys, be sure you are subscribed and that you've liked this video if it was helpful. And I'm so happy that you were here. If nobody's told you yet today, thank you. Thank you for doing what you're doing. It's really important. Happy teaching, guys.